So the recent school shootings really illustrate the larger issue, I think, of gun violence in the U.S., and particularly violence related to youths. Youth violence in the United States is exceptionally high compared to many other countries, and in most cases that involves violence with guns. And I think ultimately that is something that we as a society have to address. This is not necessarily an outright banning of firearms or taking people's guns away, but it's about making sure that guns don't quickly go from legitimate hands to illegitimate hands. And I think that's where criminologists like me have a larger role to play in informing the public and policymakers about what guns can do and cannot do. And as tragic and horrific as these school shootings were, they serve as an important reminder, I think, that gun violence in the United States in general is extremely high among juveniles. When we look at statistics worldwide, at least in nations that are similar to the United States, we find that in the United States we are probably 4 to 5 times higher in gun crimes than many other nations. In the United States, for instance, the homicide rate overall is about 4 to 5 per 100,000. When you look at most European countries, that number is 1 to 2 per 100,000. And that illustrates the relevance of guns and the centrality that guns take up in producing those levels of violence. Ultimately, we have to really think hard about what is more important. Is safety of our students and of our young population more important, or is it unrestricted access to firearms? And the policy workers and the politicians will have to work that out. As criminologists, we can really only make the suggestions that in general, when we look at the availability of firearms, that defensive gun use is really not as beneficial to society as we think. It doesn't really, it puts you in fact in greater harm's way if you use a gun in self-defense. So the argument that many people make that are absolutely pro-gun is kind of flawed, because guns really don't make us safer.